Hello and welcome back to the video series where we are reviewing the LEED Green Associate Exam Preparation Guide. So this is the last video of the series and that is about Chapter 12. So Chapter 12 reviews the primary references. And the objectives of the chapter are list the primary references for the LEED Green Associate exam, identify the source of the primary references, understand the information contained in the primary references, review the primary references before taking the LEED Green Associate exam. So let's get started right away. So since this chapter provides an overview of the primary references that are listed in the LEED V4 Green Associate Candidate Handbook, this is important to have that book ready. So you can download that from the USGBC website and please make sure that you check that before your exam because that can be updated. Always take the most up-to-date one. So, and the reason why they are getting updated is just because the changes in the industry will be reflected in the exam and noted in the candidate handbook. So always get the most recent one. That is critically important. So when you get that LEED Green Associate Exam Preparation Guide book, there will be the access code to the candidate handbook right there at the beginning of the chapter 12, and that will be redirecting you to the atpresources.com. So you can definitely check that out. So also, there is a very good book that is highly recommended for the test takers, and that is LEED Core Concepts Guide, an Introduction to LEED and Green Building, the third edition. So this gives compelling reasons and empirical evidence of why we must change traditional building practices. So there are like fundamental concepts of green building and um, the environmental protection, and they are presented along with the summaries of application strategies with the 7 credit categories and brief description of the history and organization of USGBC and LEED. So definitely get that book. That is a very good book to keep even after you pass the exam. So let's take a look at the green building and communities. As we know that the environmental impacts of the buildings is huge. And in the US, buildings account for 14% of potable water consumption, 30% of waste output, then 40% of raw materials use, 38% of carbon dioxide emissions, then between 24 and 50% of energy use, and 72% of electricity consumption. If you think about it, then it makes sense why actually more and more project owners pursue the LEED projects, just because it's not just for them to save money, but it has an impact on the community and they want to do better. They want their building to actually last for not just 1 decade or 3 decades. They want to last them for the next generations to come. And the goal, of course, of that is the triple bottom line, which is people, planet, and profit. And the goal of the triple bottom line in terms of the built environment is to ensure that buildings and communities create value for all stakeholders, not just a restricted few. So, and we know that occupants of green buildings are typically exposed to far lower levels of indoor pollutants and have significantly greater satisfaction with air quality and lighting than occupants of conventional buildings. So that is important to understand, like the holistic picture of why we actually need to do LEED or any other green building certification program. So The environmental impact of climate change deserves special consideration because buildings and land are responsible for a large proportion of greenhouse gas emissions. So, and also, and it's almost like 2/3 of all greenhouse gas emissions. Then, what else is important to remember is retro commissioning is important. That's for the existing buildings. Then adaptive reuse is critically important, and that's basically the repurpose and redesigning using the same structure. So you repurpose the building. For example, it was like an old factory, and that is adaptively reused. And now it's the loft apartments or something like that. So the building is given its second life, and like some people like to say, the most green building is the one that is already built. So when the building is already there, you don't need to spend money, time, and resources on the excavation, and it's already there. The footprint it has already been there. So please think about that. And instead of developing the green field, please try to repurpose the buildings, do the adaptive reuse projects. Um, Also, we need to think about net zero, and regenerative projects strive toward that. And that's using no more resources that they can produce on site. And they generate electricity and send the excess to the back to the grid, then return water to the hydrologic system cleaner than it was before use. Then they serve as locations for food production and community networking, and they regenerate biodiversity. Also, it promotes other relationships that link the project to the whole system of life around them. So it's like revitalizing the whole community by just doing that urban acupuncture to just one building. So that is important to keep in mind when you work on the LEED project. So, this sustainable thinking can lead us to the cycle approach. And we always need to start that conversation with the stakeholders. Even though not everybody is on the same page, we're really, as the LEED professionals, or those of you who are about to take the exam and become those LEED professionals, we always need to plant those seeds and talk to the people and just educate them and say, hey, why not doing this? This is critically important, and here is why. And then you list all those beautiful things that we discussed in the previous chapters. And then you read more on that, you educate yourself, and you continue. So when you pass your exam, this does not stop. First of all, you'll be required to do the continuing education, and that's the beauty of that. So you always stay you always read about the trends, the innovation, all the new things that USGBC, GBCI, and other organizations come with. So, and you educate yourself, and you can educate your clients and your colleagues and your partners. So this is why we need to do that. The Prius effect that involves delivering real-time energy information in a convenient way by installing meters where operators can act on the information and make changes to use energy more efficiently. So please remember that, and that is something that will most probably come up on the exam. Or also, when we touch the life cycle thinking, remember about LCC and LCA, or cycle costing and life cycle assessment, and make sure you know the difference. Also, what we need to remember is the iterative process, and that contains numerous feedback loops and is circular and repetitive. It provides opportunities for setting goals and checking each idea against a set of goals. And then the team works together in small groups and as a whole to develop the project design and plan collaboratively. So lead charrette happens in the very beginning of the project where everybody is just contributing their ideas and their vision. And then the lead professional together with the architect, they just sit together and discuss like what can be utilized, what is feasible, what is buildable, and what actually makes sense for that particular region. And then the ideas are continually being developed by the entire team, researched and refined by smaller groups, and then brought back to the team to consider critical next steps and make final decisions about the project and the design. It's always important to remember different project delivery methods. And for example, the IPD or Integrative Project Delivery System, that is a process that is different from the traditional design build, and that enables the whole team to participate from the early project stages, including goal setting and initial brainstorming. And that means that the owner is very closely involved in the project. But this is not good for every project just because not every owner is educated and not every owner has time. Not every owner is willing and is able to do that. So please keep in mind that there are different project delivery methods and that can be discussed, and that will inform your design and that will actually inform the project. So also keep in mind that there is the Architecture 2030 commitment, and that actually is aimed to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by the year of 2030. Another thing that is important to keep in mind is that always keep in mind those green building core concepts and application strategies, the scorecard basically. And remember that we have location and transportation or LT, sustainable sites or SS, water efficiency or WE, energy and atmosphere or EA, materials and resources or MR, environmental quality or EQ, innovation or IN, and regional priority or RP. So then always remember about the USGBC and what role it plays in the development of the exam, and then taking care of the project, like how you can communicate, how USGBC can advocate for the projects and what actually can be done and how the collaboration will happen. So please remember that. Then, of course, keep in mind those rating systems that we have LEED BD plus C or building design and construction, LEED ID plus C or interior design and construction, then LEED EBOM or existing building operations and maintenance, and LEED ND or neighborhood development. So I don't think we need to go through each of them just because you already know, but let me quickly refresh that. So in the LEED AP BD plus C, we have new construction and major renovation. We have core and shell development, then schools, retail, data centers, warehouses and distribution centers, hospitality, healthcare, homes and multifamily low-rise and multifamily mid-rise. Then when we switch to just the interiors, that's the commercial interiors, retail, and hospitality. And then for the existing building operations and maintenance or EBOM, that's existing buildings, retail, schools, hospitality, data centers, warehouses, and distribution centers. And ND or neighborhood development is just either the plan or the build project. So there are just two categories. So then when we go through that book, it actually goes a little deeper into each of the categories. So it's always good to remember that. It's always good to remind yourself about that. Then when we talk about integrative approach to design and construction, we need to understand that the design and construction or the implementation of the project begins with what is conventionally called schematic design, then design development, then construction documents, then bidding and negotiations, and then the construction administration. So, and you need to remember that there are design credits and construction credits. So to track the design credits, you always need to collaborate. You as a lead consultant or a future lead consultant, you need to collaborate with the architect and the design team, with the engineers, and get on the same page, because sometimes you will have to have a difficult discussion with the engineer, for example, about the HVAC system, and that will definitely inform the design. That will help them with their design, and that will make your job as a lead consultant easier when you take care of the construction credits. And for the construction credits, there is a good resource called Green Badger. It's getgreenbadger.com. I'm not affiliated with that. I've been using it for a number of projects, and it's a great system. You can track the construction credits, especially materials and resources and waste management. So this is a beautiful thing to take care of. When you develop a lead work plan, it is recommended that lead applicants follow a series of 11 steps to certification. First, initiate discovery phase. Second, select lead rating system. Third, check minimum program requirements or MPRs. Then fourth, establish project goals. Five, define lead project scope. Six, develop lead scorecard. Seven, continue discovery phase. Eight, continue iterative process. Nine, assign roles and responsibilities. 10, develop consistent documentation. And 11, perform quality assurance review and submit for certification. And I would say the most important thing throughout all those 11 iterations is the proper documentation. You need to document everything just because of the specifics of this certification. So you need to take stamped photos. You need to really have everything in order and just have separate folders for each of the credit category. You need to track it. You need to communicate with the team. Everything needs to be uploaded and just ready in the lead online. When you submit the project, you cannot just retroactively submit. So I highly recommend to submit everything as soon as you receive that from the design team, engineers, or construction manager, or anybody who you collaborate with. Um, so um, when we talk about um, projects with several physically distinct structures, you can actually submit a few things that will unite them. And that can be, for example, primary and secondary school projects, hospitals, like general medical building and the surgical building, then hotels, resorts, and resort properties. And also, but you need to double check with the lead reviewer if they're eligible to include more than one physically distinct structure in the single lead project certification application without having to use the campus program, as long as they are part of the same building identity and are under 1 million square feet. So always keep that in mind. Then another thing, please remember the full-time employees or FTE, and the full-time employees are actually those employees who spend 8 hours a day in the building. Also, another thing to remember is the FAR or the floor area ratio, and that's the density of the land use. So also when excuse me, when we talk about the minimum program requirements or MPRs, we need to remember those characteristics. So the project must be in a permanent location on existing land. The project must use reasonable lead boundaries, and the project must comply with project size requirements, and they're different for different project categories. So it's BD plus C and OIM projects that are 1,000 square feet minimum. Then ID plus C projects, a minimum of 250 square feet. And D projects must contain at least 2 habitable buildings and be no larger than 1,500 acres, and homes must be defined as a dwelling unit by the local code. And always remember, since we're talking about the code, that LEED is not required by the local building department or zoning department. It's not the code or standard. This is a totally voluntary certification, although in some of the jurisdictions, it's already embedded in the building code. For example, in the state of California, all the new construction buildings must really follow all those green building requirements. So when we talk about other documents and primary references, there is another beautiful 16-page paper, and it's called LEED V4 Impact Category and Point Allocation Process Overview. So this actually reviews the weighing structure and process that was developed for LEED V4 point allocation and highlights key findings based on statistical analysis of the results. It was written by USGBC staff and consultants to introduce the impact categories, which are new to LEED V4 and take the place of the system that was previously used to determine the credit weighings. So this is talking about LEED V4. So now we have LEED V4 4.1, and LEED V5 is about to be implemented. So I'm recording this video in February 2024. So when probably, when you watch that video, it's going to be outdated a little bit, but nevertheless, it's really good information. It's critically important, and it covers a few important things. So there's like an overview of LEED structure, then LEED system goals, and that is like giving you a holistic picture uh, rather than just preparing you for the exam. So what actually does, it reverses the contribution to global climate change, then it enhances individual human health and well-being, then protects and restores water resources, protects, enhances, and restores biodiversity and ecosystem services, promotes sustainable and regenerative material resources cycles, then it builds a greener economy for the local, that locality that the project is in, then it enhances social equity, environmental justice, and community quality of life. So it's like a broader picture, and it's a good research paper, so I highly recommend that. Then it provides some overview of the point allocation methodology, then impact category weighing layer, then credit outcome weighing, and then LEED scorecard development that actually pays specific attention to that. So that is important to take a look at. Then there are some association factors, then scorecard rules, and then conclusions, like the lessons learned. So when we talk about the scorecard rules, um, all credits in the rating system are worth at least 1 point. In 100 base points, the LEED rating system is a 100-point system. Now it's 110, that is the maximum. And also, when we talk about the lessons learned, they talk about more robust and transparent articulation of the USGBC goals and the ability to measure current and future success of the lead rating systems, because it's not implemented all over the world, although that would be really great. But that is just developing. And the importance of prioritization. So when you develop the scorecard, you really need to understand what credits are feasible, which credits the owner would like to pursue, which credits make sense, and which credits will not cost a fortune, although they can provide a good boost to the score. So that is something to think about. Then another resource is LEED V4 User Guide, and that's a 36-page LEED V4 User Guide that provides an overview of all the changes to LEED V4, and that compares it to LEED 2009. So um, and that is important to understand what it actually was before, when we're pursuing LEED V4 and then, V4.1 and then LEED V5. It's important to understand what we had back in the day to see how much progress has been made. And it talks about LEED certification process, then preparing for LEED certification, and of course LEED rating system selection. That is kind of like similar to all the references. And then changes at a glance. So like there's like a summary of the changes from LEED 2009 to LEED V4. So that is good to know as well. If you plan to work in this industry, it's always good to know what actually happened before. So another one is the guide to LEED certification, and that's about the commercial projects. It's just 8 pages, and that provides an overview of the steps to LEED certification for commercial projects, including registration, application, review, and certification. So it kind of like goes step by step, like how to register the project, how to apply, and it goes through the review, like how GBCI will conduct a thorough technical review. So part one is preliminary review, then part two is final review, which is optional, and then part three, appeal review, which is optional, and appeal fees may apply. So yes, and then you submit that, and then you get your final review. And then it goes through the process of submitting an inquiry, or CIR. That's the credit interpretation ruling. And if you remember from the previous videos, a CIR allows you to obtain technical guidance related to a particular credit or facet of the LEED rating system. So that is the request in writing, and the review team will let you know if your interpretation of a particular credit or prerequisite is consistent with published rating system requirements. So that's a good tool to use, although remember that there are fees associated with that. Then there are a lot of resources and tools here. So there's a credit library, addenda database, then the pilot credit library, which is really good, regional priority credit lookup, and links to rating system specific information. So the next one is LEED certification fees, and that is published on the USGBC website. So there could be some changes. Please always go back and check, because what is published on the website is always most up to date, comparing to the one that you may find on the internet, like that is like a PDF or just a document. So please refer to the official website. That's my recommendation. And what else is important here? There is a little 2-page document that's called Rating System Selection Guideline, excuse me, Guidance. that contains the same information that is included in the LEED v4 user guide. And that helps you actually determine which rating system you need to choose for your particular project. And that is actually it. So we're wrapping up. That was it for this book. We have reviewed the whole LEED Green Associate Exam Preparation Guide. So this is the end of chapter 12. I thank you for watching. It's been it's been a mouthful, and thank you for your time. I'll see you in the next videos. Thank you.